Yo, 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 yo. Oh, yo, 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 yo.
Okay, so we are on the line that right below the middle of the page that begins with the word lochein. Lochein on equal possession. Yes. Okay, at the end of that line. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Shlomo. Okay, you're on speaker. Here you go. This is real actors, everybody.
Yes, David.
We were talking today about how if a person is overextending himself, it's not like the way to be. It's scattered. So how does this compare to the fact that a person's being fills the whole world, and that's why we could have something like a cell phone, or in a sense we're already on the other side of the world, so
Right.
that's why we could.
Right. So, everything has its particular qualities. That's why you say over here. Sometimes it's a etzem of the person, sometimes it's ha'ora, and it's the Ayin and so forth. Yes, there is definitely an element where that a person does relate to the other side of the world, to the other side of the world. For example, we are, especially the Eden, are responsible to react to things that are happening outside the world. If there are atrocities taking place, if there are things that, if people on the other side of the world need help, we are not exempt. We are not unaware of it and uninvolved in it. Everything in its particular manner. In all instances where we say that our presence is recognizable in an extended area, it is all correlated to the fact that we are actually able to affect it one way or another. This is why we're saying that when he throws a stone, that extended area to where he throws a stone, we are related to it. And we can actually kind of sense our relationship to it, and it's on the basis of the fact that we can throw a stone that direction. Like we said the other day, this week we had these instructions, a very important element, that ownership of property is something that is uniquely human. It is uniquely human because only the human being was given by God that type of jurisdiction, that type of position in the world. And only the human being was given by God that type of ability to conceptualize and to relate. I said animals do not have the idea of ownership, and they have the idea of presence outside of their. They have no reason. They have only their presence. A human being has a presence in a much broader sense. And why? It is directly related. And this presence is a ha'ora, but the ha'ora is a ha'ora of an etzem. The etzem is that he can actually go there. He can actually do something. This is but the principal point which I wanted, and it looks like that successfully imparted, is that we have to look, especially when Chassidus describes things, even physical things, we have to look at them from a perspective how Torah looks at them. How Torah looks at the world, how Torah looks at the human being. There is nothing accidental. There's nothing by the way. There's nothing that it happens just because the human being can physically affect a stone. That's not a significant thing. If the human being can physically affect a stone just the same way as an animal can, then we're not talking about the human quality. And there's no hashpah. An animal is not mashpia anything. An animal kicks a stone and it's not mashpia anything. The stone moves because he just got kicked. It doesn't move in any direction. It's not mashpia anything. It doesn't cause the stone to fly. The human being imparts into the stone a koyach that carries it. This is how we look at it. Clearly, this is not a physical phenomenon. It's the Torah phenomenon. Because God created the world and God created the human being to rule the world. And as a result of that, the human being has both the jurisdiction and the ability to place the world, objects in the world, in any which way that he wants, within his capacity. And when he does that, he's actually imparting, he's actually affecting the world with his spirit, with his capability. Like we say all the time, if a clock is hanging on the wall, it seems like a very simple thing. There's a wall, there's a clock, there's a nail, and it hangs. Pointing out that's not what really happens. It would never happen but for the fact that this is a human being with a soul, with a spirit, with an intellect. And this is what it represents. Okay. Anything else that you had in mind? Okay. We'll I'm sure there are quick questions. It's an extremely sensitive, while at the same time very significant, very deep aspect. This is why in Torah you know that an object that a Yid used, especially an object that a tzaddik used, acquires a special status, a very special status, a kedusha. But in the Frierdiker Rebbe, in the Frierdiker Rebbe's library, there is a Siddur of the Baal Shem Tov. Apparently, it's a Siddur Baal Shem Tov himself had written with his own hand. There's a Siddur from Baal Shem Tov. And it was lying on the Frierdiker Rebbe's desktop. But there was a huge controversy in the painful story of this Sforim. That Siddur was taken out. There was a whole one of the things that the Rebbe said when he spoke about the Siddur, says, the Siddur was lying there. I was afraid to touch it. I never touched that Siddur. He was very curious, believe me, to see what's inside. But he was afraid to touch it. I don't think I would be afraid to touch it. But the Rebbe was afraid to touch it. He sensed, he saw, saying that there's a reality there. If I had known that the Rebbe was afraid to touch it, I would probably also not touch it. But the Rebbe said I was afraid to touch it. There was a Yid in Montreal, Zalman Gurevich. He was a Russian Yid. He was successful over here. And he went back to Russia still in the communist days. Apparently he had Polish passport. Well, he wasn't afraid to go back to Russia. He went to Russia. He traveled. He saw how he lived, and he came back. We are now here in America, and when he came back to the Fabrengen, and the Rebbe spoke about it, he was crying because he saw how Yidden lived over there with such depravity. He was mamish crying on the Fabrengen. He brought along a lot of interesting artifacts, and one of them he got in the Alter Rebbe's tefillin. So the Rebbe said that he should stand, since he brought the tefillin, so he can hold the tefillin. Nobody else should touch the tefillin, but everyone should pass by and look at them. Up. Yehuda?
Yes, I'm not able to get on the conference room for some reason.
No one is able to get on the conference room. I have a call in to go around to see what happened over there. The password has been changed or something. And you know what? You can stay on my phone for the time being because I'm waiting for the Golan to call me and tell me what the story is. In the meantime, you can stay on my phone because there are other couple of phones sitting here. Also with other people. Okay. Okay. So we are right in the middle here, pointing out, understanding the principle of oil. This is all aiming to ultimately get us to understand why we call it oil ein soy rather than oil shein like ein leitchila. And the principle is that the oil is only haor. She'ein bo min ha'etzem. It does not have any content, any piece of the etzem. It comes from the etzem, a representative of the etzem, as we shall still see. But in the oil itself, there's only haor. In this, right now, the word haor, normally we translate haor, effect, or function. In this context, a haor functional is a proper way to refer to haor when you talk in terms of the effect of the effect of the haor. When we are comparing the haor to the etzem, there the yin that is a haor takes a different tack, a different meaning. Let's say it's only haor, which means it only reflects that there is an etzem. It doesn't take a piece of the etzem. It simply points to you that there is such a thing as an etzem. That's mit der haor. Just as when you talk about a haor on a functional level, what is the point there? It's only a functionally light. It is not really light. In other words, it doesn't transform darkness to light. It has the effect, the functional effect of light. You could see the object, but the object is still essentially dark. You don't get that?
No, the object is still dark.
Essentially, the object is, why is the world, to it started, was dark? This is impossible. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I never thought of it.
So we spoke about it many times. Dark means that the element of visibility didn't exist. What was the world's, what was the level of the world? Tangibility. Doesn't have the element of visibility. In other words, what is tangibility versus visibility? Tangibility means that the object exists when you stumble upon it. It doesn't exist beyond its physical presence. Visibility means it exists on a broader, on a higher scale, on a truer scale.
This is too far. A thing exists whether you can see it or not.
It exists on what level?
I don't understand the relevance to a level. A level
Yes. Okay, you have to grasp it all at once, but listen to the words.
Yeah.
Tangibility means it exists when it hits you. As long as it doesn't hit you, it doesn't exist. A dog goes and does its own thing. It's not conscious whether it's doing the right thing or the wrong thing until it gets hit in the head. A human being has a sense of right and wrong. An intellectual value, principle.
Not if it wasn't taught. It has to be taught these things.
When he is taught these things, because the reason he is taught these things is because he is capable of understanding them. Teaching does not, that's what we're going to learn now. Teaching does not put a head on your shoulders. If you have a head, then you'll be able to understand, to learn.
It's still in potential. It's the potential when you're born.
It's not a potential. It's potentially active. The action of it, of the seichel, is potential. But the essence is actual. Because the minute you talk to, you're talking to an intelligent being. Okay? Not everything at once. All right, so again, we are right, just below the middle of the page, about two or three lines below the page. The line begins below chen. So at the end of this line, we concluded discussing the concept, the moshel of shefa, as it expresses itself in zrika, in the physical throw. Similarly, as we point out, that this is another rung, another stage in this inyan hashpah. That similarly, hu b'hashpahas haseichel, in hashpah of seichel, on bestowal of seichel. This is much more subtle, because seichel, you're not giving him a tangible element. Seichel that the mashpia gives to the mekabel, teaches the mekabel, is not really compelling. Like we said, the seichel that the mashpia teaches is only a ha'or, as we're going to see. He's not really he can't put a head on somebody's shoulder. It's not compelling that if I teach it to you, you will know it. And if I teach it to you, not only will you know, but this will affect you and it will cause you to act in a certain way. Doesn't happen.
Yet it's still called shefa.
And that is called shefa. And this is where the challenge over here. But nevertheless, seichel, I suppose the seichel is also called shefa. So let's go inside and see, be carefully read every word here. Chein hashpoa is ha-seichel shamashpiya nitfas beha-hashpoa. Where do we see in seichel that seichel is in the category of hashpoa rather than in the category of ha'ora? Ha'ora means that it only merely represents the presence of the mashpia, of the source. Hashpoa means that it actually takes up an element of the mashpia himself. Where do we see that in the seichel is a hashpoa, not the element of the ha'ora? It is in the fact shahamashpia nitvas bahahashpoa. The fact that the mashpia is grasped by the hashpoa. What does this mean? Grasped by the hashpoa, that he is actually anchored into the hashpoa. He is preoccupied. He is drawn. He is held by this hashpoa. Shaharei, since that, the hashpoa does not come memela, does not come automatically. Kiyim, rather, mutar lahashpia. He is preoccupied. He is tied down lahashpia, to be mashpia, to teach. V'gam mugdor bozeh. He is mutar in this, and he is also mugdor bozeh. Mugdor is the same thing and same concept as nitfas. He is bounded by it, meaning to say, you can actually define the mashpia at that moment as to what is his state of being. His state of being is that he is in the middle of teaching. That defines him at that moment, mugdor. And he is not mugdor in the hashpoa. If he is preoccupied with something else, and he's just bubbling with his mouth, he's not mashpia.
That would be ha'ara.
One second. Yehuda, I'm getting you off because I have a Golan is calling me. Yes, hold on.
It should be fixed now. We're still investigating what happened, but you should be able to get on now.
The same old number.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Be well. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Okay, how do I get? Okay, Yehuda?
Probably on mute.
He's not on mute. Yehuda? I never learned how to use this. Okay. Yehuda?
He may have gone down. The way you spoke to him, I have to get off. So
Maybe he got off. Okay, maybe got off. Okay, so we're going back onto, let me get on the books, onto the conference.
Welcome to IDT Connect. Please enter your conference ID followed by the pound key.
Okay, Yehuda, I'm going on to the conference room now. We'll see what happens.
Please enter. The conference ID you have entered is not valid. Please re-enter your conference ID followed by the pound key. Welcome to the
Golan Ben-Oni's.
At the tone, please record your name followed by
Okay,
the
it
pound
works.
key.
Abba Paltiel.
Thank you. You are participant number 2.
You can go back into the conference room.
Lama? Let me call him.
Yeah, it works. I'm here.
Okay.
Or do you want to go to conference?
Yeah.
He's on conference. My phone is off. Oh my phone ran out of power in the middle. Wait, so Baruch doesn't know?
No, Baruch, now you got on the conference.
Oh, okay.
I'm on the conference line.
Oh, okay.
wow.
Okay.
I got no juice here.
You want to charge it? I haven't.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let me see. Let me see. What kind of outlet you got? Okay. Yeah, I have one of these, but I have to go find it. That's one. Okay. An interesting thing as far as Hashpoas, as Seichel is concerned, the Alter Rebbe says that if someone is learning for himself, and some people learn quite verbally, audibly, like they're talking to themselves and discussing the entire this give and take, debate. And he's asking questions and answering his answers. There was the Rebbe in the Frierdiker Rebbe records of somebody who was learning and he's saying to himself, Rashi, how could you say such a thing? There was a whole living debate going on. So even if someone were to be observed doing this, if he doesn't intend to teach you, you will not get the same hashpah. Hashpah is only if it's intended for the student. So mutrod b'zeh means not only is he mutrod, he's preoccupied, he's taken in, he's held down by the seichel, he's held down by the talent, by his relationship with the talent.
What do you mean held down?
He is anchored.
Anchor, okay.
But it says about the Baal Shem Tov students, they would that whatever they heard, that would be like a hurrah for them. Whatever they experienced in the world, there would be some kind of teaching for them.
Yeah, but that's what they took from it. It's not the same thing as an Hashem that taught them.
Yeah.
The real message in that saying of the Baal Shem Tov, that everything that a person observes is a directive to him, is really much deeper than that. What this is saying is, true, a human being has to be nitfus, and he is anchored down in his activities. The Rebbe can speak to 2 people and to 1,000,000 people individually and directly to each one individually. So when a person is sees something in the world, this is intended for him to see. There is a story in the Chumash, in this week's Chumash. Rashi discusses the ephod. The ephod is the apron that the Kohen Gadol wore. So Rashi mentions in the ephod that this is like the apron that women, sodas that the classy ladies wear on the rekvus susim and they ride on the horses. And he repeats it twice in his Pirush. What's the point of that? So the story is that Rashi was perplexed. Rashi writes that he doesn't know, didn't find any source for what the ephod is, and it's called Oimer Libi. My heart tells me. And in other words, he's going through all his resources, and he said, I sense that this is what it is, but he doesn't have a basis, a real tangible basis for it. So what happened was Rashi lived in France, and we know what France is. And Rashi one time was walking to the street, and he noticed this phenomenon: a woman riding on a horse in the middle of the city. which is not sneezed, So Rashi noticed it, and it bothered him. Why was he shown that kind of a thing? This is not for him to see. And he surmised that he was shown it in order for him to understand, to figure out what an aphid is. This is why he included it in his Pirush. He says, I learned it because the Rebbe taught it to me this way.
Where's the story? Rashi says this?
Huh?
Where's the story?
No, the story is not the Rashi. I don't know what the story. But the story, I don't. That's I heard from Rebbe.
I heard it too.
I will interrupt. The water is out, and I saw that somebody wanted to have water. So excuse me for a moment. I'll be right back.
Oh yo, oh yo, oh yo, I die. Oh yo, dee da 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 da. Ay yo 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 yo. Oh yo 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 yo. Oh yo yo yo. Oh yo, I die. Oh yo yo. Dee da 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 da. Ay yo 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 yo. Oh yeah.
So Mashpia into Hashpah. Why do we say that Mashpia is Nitwas Baha Hashpah? He is anchored by the Hashpah. Sharei Nishvat Meir, because it doesn't Nishvat, it doesn't get Nishpa automatically. Kimu Mutul Hashpia v'gam Mutul Bozeh. He is actually defined by it. That's with Mugdor. Gather means a fence. He's fenced in. He's actually limited into it at this moment. V'hainu, and that is like the last. This coming up. This few words. This is what we had the challenge this morning.
Where are we?
We are below the middle of the page. A few lines below, the line begins Ki'im. Chof Aleph, Rosh Hashanah Ki'im. V'hainu, and that is, why is it Mashpia actually surrounded and defined by the Hashpah? Lefi shenimshach guf ha'ora sichloi bozeh. Because in this Hashpah, bozeh, in this Hashpah is drawn guf ha'ora sichloi, the very body of the ha'ora of his seichel. Okay. So now let us kind of decipher these words. Seichel per se is a ruchnisike thing. Seichel is not a tangible goof. It's not a body. It's a ruchnisike thing. It's a concept. It's a kind of some kind of an experience, of a sense. Therefore, you cannot take a piece of seichel and impart it to somebody else. Just as you cannot take a piece of your experience and impart it to somebody. You can describe the experience, but you cannot take a piece of experience and give it to somebody else over. Seichel is like an experience. The sensitivity that the Nefesh Hodom has, the sensitivity that the Nefesh Hodom has, that the human being has, to reality, and it senses it from a reality perspective. That's seichel. Like for example, we spoke about before, you throw a rock into the air. It's a physical phenomenon. There's nothing significant in this. Even though an animal can kick the rock and it should fly. But when you apply your seichel to it, and you see that when a human being throws it, it has a different significance. And it has actually a human significance. It's actually a special creation, a godly gift, a godly presence, a godly license to a human being to be able to change things in the world, to take a rock that naturally should stay here, it should fly up into the air. It should go against its nature.
But it's not seichel that propelled the rock. Seichel that perceives the human value of it. You're saying
It's okay. I'm always afraid that we'll lose track of it. It's on our seichel that's able to discern this phenomenon, this special element.
Mm-hmm.
Without seichel, we would not see that there's anything special about it. As a matter of fact, the scientist who is completely devoid of seichel doesn't see it that way.
Doesn't see
Doesn't see any significance to it.
Any difference between the physical rock being thrown by
Between
us?
the human being throwing the rock or the animal throwing the rock.
Right, so seichel discerns that human sensitivity. Discerns that difference.
The reason, and because the seichel discerns, the seichel perceives that there's a reality behind everything. The seichel perceives that the world is an intended creation. It's not an accident. It's not something that occurred by a big bang. There's a real significance to everything. There's a life in it. And therefore he sees a life element in everything. This is seichel. This seichel, listen to what I said, this is a ruchen zikinyan, that's a human experience. You cannot take that and impart it to somebody. You can tell him what you experience, but you cannot impart to him the very essence of it. Mm-hmm. This is why if he does not himself, if he is not himself a human being, you cannot impart to him your seichel. Right?
If he's not, did you say that? If he's not a human being?
If he himself doesn't have his own head, right?
Yeah, okay.
So what does it mean over here when you say that it's guv ha'oras ha'sichli? That you have, that the body of ha'oras sichli is nimshach in it. So we started identifying these three words backwards. Sichloi, number one, seichel. We already said seichel is an intangible sensitivity. The the seichel that is, this is the way the seichel is under the person himself. A person that has a sensitivity of seichel, by him, his seichel actually perceives the Inyan the way his Rotzen and Noinik with higher qualities of his, the way they perceive it, and he in his seichel perceives how that the nefesh itself perceives these things. So there is more of a reality in a certain sense, because the seichel perceives how the Rotzen and Noinik nefesh sees these things. Okay, we got this far. I want to take this a step further. This thing that we said just a moment ago, that the seichel does not relate to the world as an accident, but relates to the world as a godly reality that was intentionally created. You can argue logically and so forth. The real perception of this comes from the nefesh itself. The Rotzen and Noineg nefesh cannot tolerate any other different perception. A human being cannot live in a vacuum, in a meaningless environment. Like we say, on a smaller scale, but nevertheless it's a good demonstration, and I hope we understand how to relate to it. If you send a human being out in a capsule into space, although he is guaranteed safe security and thank you, and he doesn't have to worry about any of his needs, it would be a total misery.
So what's that adding?
That because the nefesh cannot relate to nothing. He has to be. He has to perceive a purpose, a meaning, a godly meaning for his existence.
Right.
Not just existence. Shmuel, are you sleeping or are you? You with me?
I'm with you.
I don't want you to miss this out.
Thank you.
I'm not following.
Okay.
Dozed off.
Everyone has to be responsible to prick somebody who seems to fall asleep. Otherwise, they're all going to be up to creek.
You want the fry?
I want the teacher to push me.
I'll push you over and then you can push you back.
All right. No, okay. So I really personally don't see how one can, if one gets involved in this, how one can really stray off this. So this is the seichel. So the real perception of seichel is how the way it is in the Arab, in the way in the same person himself who perceives the seichel, it is due to a reality of the nefesh itself, which is what a human being is.
Mm-hmm.
And the seichel is the revelation, is a derivative of that. That's what the seichel. This is the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
The term, the statement, the expression, it makes sense. What does it mean? It makes sense. Seichel. Oh, it makes sense. Oh, I see. It makes sense. It makes sense means that as a human being, I can relate to it. That's what it means. It means it makes sense.
Okay. So are we trying to understand how the teacher is nitfas, or are we trying to understand how he's nimshach gufa aras sichle?
We're trying to understand gufa aras sichle. Because gufa aras sichle, that's why he's nitfas. But we are trying to understand what these words mean. Gufa aras sichle,
Okay, and when I'm trying to think into or just follow along here, it seems to be the issue. On the one hand, he is giving over, and this has been an example of shefa. He's giving over. On the other hand, we hear time after time, you cannot put a head on somebody's shoulders, and seichel is ha'ara.
That's
So-
right.
Is that?
So that's why our discussion has not been concluded yet.
Oh, okay.
So far we pointed out just the opposite. That seichel itself is only ha'ara. Seichel is based on Ratzon HaNefesh, but it's also is sensing what the Etzem sees.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
So, probably I'm getting confused here because we discussed the subject later in the Hemshech the first time around, the distinction between Hashpa Ruchnis and Hashpa Gufnis.
No,
There's-
but this is not the time to look for contradictions. Let's
I'm
try
just-
to understand it right here.
Okay? I'm not looking for contradictions.
Okay, so what is it that bothers you in these words here?
Is the Hashpa HaSeichel here, it's being described as a shefa, as a transfer of the etzem,
Right,
of something,
right,
of some sort of etzem.
right.
And right now we're not comparing that to anything else. We're saying, no, that's what's going on here, and that's different than Oyer,
Right,
than Ha'ara.
right. And defining this etzem, the words that the Rebbe uses in defining this etzem, these are the words that we are now struggling with. These words is Guv Ha'ora Sichloi. Okay. Now Sichloi in itself is a Ha'ora. On top of that, we're saying that this is only the Ha'ora of the Seichel.
And then we say it's goof.
So where is the Guf? Where is the Hashpoyas? Hashpoyas. This is in fact exactly what we are struggling with. But the Rebbe is saying it's only ha'oras, sichloi, both of which are only a ha'ora. In the seichel itself, it's only a ha'ora. This is what I started explaining. Let me just go the process as I was leading it, so you'll have the whole thing. Seichel, as we said, is an intangible thing. It's a human experience. But the seichel, as it is contained, as it experienced by the originator of the seichel, the Rav, there the seichel, even though it's only experienced, but what is he experiencing? He's experienced the reality of his nefesh. Why does the seichel, this is what I'm trying to explain, why does the seichel make sense? Because he senses what the nefesh tells him, what the human reality is. So therefore it is like a sense, it's a ha'or, but there isn't a reality to it. Because the nefesh, this is what the human being is. This is a real presence. So the way the seichel is unto himself, there is a certain sense of reality to it. Even though clearly it's not a tangible physical entity, but still, let's see this, the seichel as the Harav sees it is really compelling. You can't see it any other way, because that's what his nefesh is. Because this is a nefesh thing. Like we said in this example, if send a person out to space, Rahman Islam, it's hard to contemplate this thing. There's no way that a human being can possibly acquiesce to that. There's no way. Give me a prick.
I got it before there was a pre-prick.
That was a prick.
free.
I heard the pause, so I knew.
What is the significance of the word compelling?
Compelling means that there's a reality to it. It's not just. I'll tell you what compelling is. Compelling is very simple.
A ha'ara is not compelling?
A ha'ara is not compelling. When you open your eyes, you see. When you close your eyes, you don't see. When you touch an object, there is no way that you will touch it and not touch it. There's no way. If you walk and you walk into a table, you walk into a table not only because you're aware that there's a table, that's how the table comes into being. No, a table will force you to know its presence. That's been compelling. There's no choice there.
You know its presence, you can say that?
It hits you.
It hits you.
And ouch.
Something that makes you know.
And ouch, yeah, you took that right.
Something that makes you know its presence.
That's right. It's a compelling reality. That's what the tangibility is. At the tangibility level. Okay. So now, seichel.
So you said seichel is a tangible or intangible experience?
Seichel.
Right.
Okay. Seichel is, it would seem, is an intangible, right? But on the other hand, the way the seichel is an experience. You could have the experience or not have the experience. And it doesn't come to you also automatically, even to the rabbi doesn't come automatically. He has to really work on it. But when he actually senses this seichel and says it makes sense, it cannot make sense the opposite way. Like we said the example. It cannot be that the seichel to him should come in the opposite way. That to be up in space alone over there in a capsule, in a secure capsule, is an acceptable way to live. There's no way that can happen.
Oh, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
There's no way that can happen. Because it's contrary to the human reality. To the spiritual human reality. Physically, on the other hand, on the contrary, physically he can exist there, but he can't tolerate it.
It's funny how existence and life diverge like that.
Yeah.
You could have the same question. How could a human being for 13 years sit in a cave, half buried in a cave, Shlomo Bar Yochai and his son? It's a totally foreign it's a superhuman achievement, but it's beyond the average human acceptance.
It's a completely different phenomenon, totally different phenomenon. Number one, he was there on the earth. He was not in space. And he was learning with the intent to go out and teach. It's a completely different phenomenon.
And he had a chava.
And on top he had a chava with him.
And carob seeds.
A carob seed. But he was living, he was experiencing earth. He was really experiencing worldly reality. Okay. So, seichel, as I said, seichel is a rufnisik Iranian. And nevertheless, the way the seichel is known to the Rav himself, there's a certain compelling reality to it. He can understand it or not understand it, but he cannot understand it contrary to the reality, because it emanates from his nefesh.
Understand or not understand is low already. He cannot.
Yeah, he can, either he thinks of it or he doesn't think. Either he understands it, but if he doesn't understand, it's going to be the reality of the nefesh.
And the reality is constant.
Reality but it's a higher thing. So in this seichel, the way he understands it, there is something more real than seichel in his seichel. But then the seichel, as he imparts it to the Talmud, that experience that he himself has, he cannot impart to the Talmud. He cannot impart the Talmud how he experiences the seichel. There's no way. What can he impart to the Talmud? The ha'ora of that. You can only impart the ha'ora of that. What is the ha'ora of that seichel? The ha'ora is how that illuminates, how that, what the effect of it is.
Significance of it.
Not the actual experience. That he cannot impart. The actual experience, as we always say, you go to Niagara Falls and you observe something phenomenal, something unusual, natural observation, and you can describe it in all detail, but you cannot impart your experience of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the...
That would seem to show he's not nitfas. The sefer that he's giving over to his Talmud. He's really anchored way above that. He has reality.
No. You missed the point. Nitfas bozah nitfas in the hashpoah, not in the seichel. Of course, he's nitfas in the seichel because that's his seichel. You cannot give the seichel a different seichel. Nitfas means he's nitfas in the hashpoah.
That's like, so that's the momentary, he's like preoccupied.
That's right.
But he's not limited. We had Geder, we had Nitfas. It
He's
sounds like he's
moved
limited.
in hashpoah. He's moved in the act of hashpoah.
Fine. Not to say that his reality is somehow constricted down to.
No. He's moved. He's moved. He's okay.
Like we had the guy throwing. He can only throw.
In the seichel also, he's moved in the seichel. He is actually defined by this activity. This is what he's doing now. Why? Even though he is mashpia, this is our challenge. Even though he's mashpia, only seichel, not a physical entity. And in the seichel, all good for itself is mashpia, only the ha'oras are seichel.
Nevertheless,
we can't give him the essence. Nevertheless, he's moved b'zeh. Why? Because the thing that ha'oras ha'seichel, it's guv ha'oras ha'seichel. What is guv ha'oras ha'seichel? This is what we are challenged to focus in and try to understand. And this fact that it is guv ha'oras ha'seichel, this is why he is actually nitfas b'zeh and is mugda b'zeh. And this is why this is called ha'ashpah, not ha'ora. Shefa, not oir.
The different parts of ours are safe. Why aren't we just saying that?
This was called Shefa, not Oir.
This is why it's called shefa, not oir. Because there is guv ha'oras ha'seichel. Okay? So I presented to you what the challenge in these three words is.
Have we started to...
Did we say what the guf ha'oras ha'seichel is yet?
I think we just made the question.
You didn't give an example of a guf ha'oras ha'seichel. You just said ha'oras ha'seichel.
Okay? So the fish in Nimshach b'zeh guv ha'oras ha'seichel. Because guv ha'oras ha'seichel is nimshach in this hashpah, this is why it doesn't come automatically. And this is why he is mutrud b'zeh, he is nitfas b'zeh, and mugda b'zeh, and all of these things.
What does the goof offer, add to this? He's occupied. He took it from he took it from the Ratzon and Tainug. It became his seichel. It became an oras seichel. What was this further step, the guf oras seichel?
I'm presenting to you the challenge, gentlemen,
Okay.
If you don't think, I cannot explain it to you. This is why I'm presenting you the kasha, the shaila first,
Okay.
the question.
Okay.
Because if I'm going to tell it to you without having you challenged, there's no way it's going to happen.
Are there times that you talk to yourself that we can listen in?
You can listen now. I'm talking to myself the whole time.
I got you.
Sometimes you have to.
But yeah, this is exactly what I presented
Okay.
you.
Okay.
I said, I presented you with the challenge. Why? For you to wait for me to give you the answer? No. For you to think into it. So that you will see there is something very special over here. And you will be able to focus in on these words. It is only seichel. That's why I made the kasha so more difficult. That it is only seichel. It's not really a tangible entity. And on top of that, by the mashpiyat himself, the seichel has some kind of reality. But that which he is imparting to the Talmud is only ha'oras seichel.
Goof here obviously doesn't mean.
And yet, it's only ha'oras seichel. And yet we say no, but this is hashpah. This is not ha'or. Why? Because there's guv ha'oras seichel. In the ha'or itself, there is an element that can be defined, can be referred to as guf.
Yeah.
Yehuda's not here, so.
Now, Yehuda is at home probably. All right, so we have to interrupt because we don't have any more time to pursue this today. But it's good because hopefully we will reflect on Gub Ha'or Zaseichel in a manner that would be possible for us to discuss it.
This was fun.
Good. See? That's right.